you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Warner Brothers' deal to buy Paramount. There is a deal in the works. It's not a final deal, but it does make a lot of sense. News of this just broke today. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. I have done a lot of videos on Warner Bros. Discovery. I haven't done a lot of them lately because there haven't been a lot of exciting things happening for the company. But now there is. David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, is sitting down with the head of Paramount and they're talking about a potential merger deal. Just so we understand, Paramount's around a $10 billion company. Warner Bros. Discovery is a $29 billion company. This would not be a merger of equals where they're going to have some kind of a shared power. This would be Warner Bros. Discovery absorbing and taking over, really acquiring Paramount. The details are definitely not out yet. We have a few articles on it. I've got a couple of other interesting articles to show you related to it about the history of Warner Bros. Discovery and the kind of deals that they do. So let's get into it. Okay, first found out about this on Twitter. Alex Sherman put some tweets out. He's the guy that does a lot of these CNBC articles about Disney and about the entertainment industry. Alex Sherman actually was just talking earlier today about how even Warner Bros. Discovery's deal to acquire Paramount might be to get the attention of Universal. I know a lot of people want to put Universal together with Warner Bros. Discovery in one way or another. Alex was even talking about Universal being spun off, essentially sold off from Comcast as a separate company, that then that Universal company could go and merge with Warner Bros. Discovery. I mean, it's possible, it's complicated. There are a lot of reasons as easy a fit to get approval for a merger like that. So really, this is a lot more realistic that Warner Bros. Discovery would go ahead and acquire Paramount to run it better. From the New York Post, Warner Bros. Discovery reportedly eyes merger with Paramount Global. These are the guys that seem to have been the first with the news. Sarah Fisher over at Axios scooped Warner Bros. Discovery in talks to merge with Paramount Global. From CNBC, Alex's article saying Warner Bros. Discovery merger talks with Paramount Global may draw out NBC Universal. The idea being that if those two companies talk about merging, NBC Universal may come out and say, wait a minute, merge with me instead of them. Like two guys going after the same girl. Here's where it really comes down to, like, why would a merger between Paramount and Warner Bros. Discovery make sense in the first place? From IndieWire, Paramount lost only $238 million from streaming in first full Paramount Plus with Showtime quarter. Paramount is losing money on their streaming service. They're losing it now. They were losing it last year. They're losing a little bit less, but Warner Bros. Discovery is so well run and so carefully run by strong operators, David Zaslav and his team, that they figured out how to have the thing at least break even or make a tiny bit of money. So when you have a company like Paramount, who has $15 billion worth of debt, has a stock market value of $10 billion, but it's losing between $1 billion and $1.5 billion a year on average year over year, when they're obviously working as hard as they possibly can to try to have the thing break even, the same as Warner Bros. Discovery is doing. At some point, they have to look at it and say, look, is this realistic? Can Paramount on its own fix its streaming service? The answer is no, they probably can't, because just because streaming worked for Netflix, direct to consumer, it took them years to get to that point, and they got to a certain scale to do it successfully. Obviously, if it costs X to make your content for the streaming service, and then you need Y number of people to watch the streaming service and pay for the streaming service, but Y doesn't hit the number you need, and you really don't know when it's going to hit the number you need, the business starts to look a little bit hopeless. Then comes the Warner Bros. Discovery people. Before Warner Bros. Discovery was created, before merging Warner Bros. With the Discovery Company, David Zaslav and his team had pretty much just completed a $14.6 billion acquisition of Scripps Networks Interactive. Scripps was the company prior to Warner Brothers that they merged with under Zaslav, cutting expenses, combining offices, and creating efficiencies to combine their two sets of cable networks. This kind of a merger, cut expenses, get efficiencies, get scale, that's what the Zaslav people like to do. Since 2018, and it's only 2023 now, they did this Scripps deal, And then they did the Warner Brothers deal, which is another multi-billion-dollar deal, much bigger than this one. The stock is not doing so well at Warner Brothers Discovery, and the main reason for that are general industry problems, as well as a stockholder issue. The stockholders of Warner Brothers Discovery, around 70% of them came from AT&T. To make the deal work with Warner Brothers Discovery, AT&T took Warner Brothers, converted it to Warner Brothers Discovery stock, and just gave it for free to their AT&T shareholders. Those people were never going to hold that stock. They never wanted that stock. So a large percentage of the people, probably even still today, that have Warner Brothers Discovery stock just sort of have it, but don't really want it. They're not invested in the company. It's very unusual for a new company to sell 70% of itself to the public, much less to have it done the way they did it, where the stock was essentially forced on other shareholders. It's called a cram down. People don't like having things crammed down on them. Coming from the New York Post, debt-ridden media giant Paramount Global held merger talks with Warner Brothers Discovery, according to multiple reports. Paramount CEO Bob Bakish met with Warner Brothers Discovery boss David Zaslav for several hours at Paramount's New York headquarters in Times Square. The merger talks, described as being in the early stages, follow reports that media mogul Shari Redstone may sell her controlling stake in Paramount-parent National Amusements, so National Amusements is the company that actually owns Paramount, to Larry Ellison's production company Skydance and Gerry Cardinale's private equity firm RedBird Capital. Zaslav also met with Redstone, according to Axios, though it's unclear whether he's looking to buy Paramount Global or its parent company. Paramount Global is not the only operations of the parent company, National Amusements. A separate report from Bloomberg on Wednesday revealed that Redstone is also in talks to sell Paramount's BET network to a management-led investor group at a steep discount. Sources told the New York Post that Redstone has been kicking the tires around town on everything. And I have seen those reports. These reports are at the point where pieces are going to be taken out of Paramount, either one big piece or chunks and bits and pieces. It's not going to stay intact the way it is. A merger of the two Goliaths would bring together Paramount's vast portfolio that includes CBS, MTV, Paramount Pictures, and Nickelodeon under the same roof as Warner Brothers Discovery, home to the Warner Brothers movie studio, HBO, and CNN. So you'd have the Ninja Turtles, which are controlled by Paramount, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, under the same company as DC Comics. That's interesting. During the Times Square meeting, Zaslav and Bakish discussed ways their companies could complement one another. One example would be to merge their streaming services, Paramount Plus and Max, in order to better compete with Netflix, which is the main thing. Okay, the Warner Bros. Discovery people are very sharp operators. Look at how much of the streaming industry has copied what Zaslav has done, whether it's price increases, being much more observant about who's actually watching your content on your streaming service? What content are people actually watching? Let's pull content that people aren't watching. Let's cut our production costs to make sure we're not spending money making things just to throw it on a streaming service that we're not even getting a return on investment for. They're so detail and numbers oriented with such tremendous operational leverage and accountability. Those Warner Brothers Discovery people could fix anything you'd put in front of them within their expertise. Axios said Warner Bros. Discovery has hired bankers to look into the matter, noting that the two companies could complement each other, with Warner Bros. Discovery's strong international footprint bolstering Paramount and Paramount's children's content proving essential to Warner Bros. Discovery's streaming ambitions. On the news side, CBS News could be combined with CNN to create a global news powerhouse, but the merger could also face regulatory hurdles. Neither Paramount nor Warner Bros. Discovery commented. Warner Bros. Discovery shares dropped nearly 5% after news of the talks broke, finishing with a market value of around $29 billion. Paramount's market cap was just over $10 billion after closing down 2% on Wednesday. Partly the shares are going down in price because there's no narrative explaining how this is good for these two companies. I'm giving you some of the narrative, but I'm not the one at Warner Bros. Discovery that's going to be carrying this out. I can't make promises for what their team is going to do. Of course, this is not investment advice, and it's early in discussions about what they might do with the two companies. Even it's early to understand, would they be buying all of Paramount Global? Would they be buying all of National Amusements? It's not completely known yet. Paramount, which is battling declines in traditional TV viewership and advertising, as well as a costly expansion into streaming with its Paramount Plus service, is facing enormous pressure to find a partner or buyer as it's staring down a mountain of debt. And the problem with debt right now is it's not 0% interest rates anymore. Since the massive inflation of the last couple of years, these interest rates are seriously high numbers, and those debts need to get paid. If the debts can't get paid, these companies get into trouble very quickly. To date, Warner Bros. Discovery has had no issues paying its debt. Paramount Global has already had issues paying its debt. National Amusement reached a deal with creditors, those are the people they owe money to restructure some of its debt earlier this year and trim down by selling Simon & Schuster for $1.62 billion in August to private equity firm KKR. The New York Times reported Redstone has held talks with Amazon, Apple, and Netflix earlier this year. Her reported talks to sell BET Network for a little under $2 billion come after an auction earlier this year failed to score the $3 billion the company was seeking. The potential buyers include BET Chief Executive Officer Scott Mills and Chin Chu, a former Blackstone executive who runs New York-based CC Capital Partners, according to Bloomberg. In August, Paramount scrapped its $3 billion auction, which included streaming channel BET Plus along with VH1 after media mogul Tyler Perry reportedly did not raise his $2 billion bid for the asset. Perry, who owns a stake of 25% in BET Plus already and produces several shows for the network, had called the sale process disrespectful at a Bloomberg Equality event in October. He also reportedly suggested the asking price for the channels was too high. Under CC Capital Partners, Chu has created a number of special purpose acquisitions companies to acquire businesses. Last year, he merged one of the SPACs with the photo archive Getty Images Holdings. When they say SPACs, here's what they're talking about. SPACs are shell companies that raise funds through an initial public offering, which funds the acquisition of a private company. The money is held in a trust with a 2-year deadline to find a target, a company that they would buy. Once an acquisition is found, shareholders have the right to sell their shares back to the shell company or to hold the stock. So that's where Warner Bros. Discovery buying Paramount is at right now. Warner Bros. Discovery would not be doing this deal if they weren't going to be in full control of the new company combining Paramount. The number one priority here is to stop the multi-billion-dollar losses for streaming that Paramount has been dealing with their Paramount Plus streaming service. I have zero doubt that Zaslav and his team could turn that loss into at least a break-even and then do tremendous amounts of layoffs, probably get another $500 million a year in savings and expenses, and then have the deal pay for itself. Having this kind of a team of executives that know how to do massive acquisitions and make the numbers work is a very rare thing. They've been doing it since 2018, at least on a multi-billion-dollar scale, and they're ready to do it again. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.